Have you ever felt, like many of us do, drawn to a grand vision of who you could become, but at the same time, unable to take the necessary steps to make that dream a reality? You have bigger dreams than most people around you, yet you still find yourself trapped in the same old habits. You may even feel an initial excitement, make plans, and for a moment, feel like you're on the right track, until procrastination sets in. Ambition is a powerful force. It drives us, pushes us to seek something beyond our current reality. But what Carl Jung would warn us is that this ambition isn't always a reflection of our true desire. Often, it's an escape. Yes, an escape. Ambition, for many, becomes a way of running away from what's truly going on inside of us. What happens, for example, is that we start dreaming of becoming more, achieving more. But in reality, what we're doing is trying to escape something that haunts us: the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of being exposed in our vulnerability. This paradox of ambition is something Jung understood deeply. He spoke about the shadow, that hidden part of ourselves, which contains the darker, denied aspects of our psyche, the fears, insecurities, and unresolved traumas. And when we decide to aim for something grand, our shadow feels this as a threat. It's like an internal war is taking place. Our ambition, which seeks to reach for the new, the grand, the bold, directly conflicts with our shadow, which wants to keep us safe, small, and comfortable. So, even with all our energy and plans, we begin to feel the weight of procrastination, mental fatigue, and distraction. It feels like we're being sucked into a vortex of inaction. And the question arises, why does this happen? Society would tell us it's laziness, that we need more discipline or a better morning routine. But Jung would dig deeper. He would understand that laziness is often not a flaw of character, but a defensive response. It's our unconscious trying to protect us, saying that taking the next step, putting our ideas into action, would be too risky. Stay where you are, don't change. Change can be dangerous. This often is what the shadow whispers to us. And so, life becomes a series of frustrating attempts to start tomorrow. The initial enthusiasm quickly fades, and the cycle begins again. This isn't a lack of willpower or motivation. It's a manifestation of a much deeper psychological conflict. A conflict that Jung spent his entire career trying to unravel. When you're in the middle of this internal struggle, it can be hard to understand what's really happening. It's not just about wanting more, desiring more. It's about confronting what we fear becoming. Do you really want to change? Or perhaps, what you fear most is what will happen when the change actually occurs. Are you afraid of failure, or more profoundly, afraid of success and the new responsibilities it will bring? If you feel stuck in this cycle, it's not due to a lack of ambition or a desire for change. What's missing is the understanding that true transformation begins when we confront our shadow and the invisible forces that keep us stuck in the past. Think about it for a moment. What is your shadow trying to protect you from? What does it have to say about your fear of moving forward? Carl Jung taught us that our unconscious mind is far from a passive observer. It is an active force, shaping much of our lives without us even realizing it. One of the most powerful and subtle manifestations of the unconscious is the archetype. Archetypes are universal symbols and patterns of behavior that reside deep within us, often guiding us in ways we don't fully understand. When we talk about laziness, Jung wouldn't merely chalk it up to a lack of motivation or character. No, laziness is more than just not wanting to do something. It is an archetype. It's a part of the unconscious that holds us back, an unconscious defense mechanism that can manifest as procrastination, avoidance, and inertia. And what lies at the heart of this archetype? Fear. Fear of change, fear of failure, and sometimes even a fear of success. Think about this. How many times have you felt an urge to act, to change your life in some profound way? Whether it's starting a business, getting healthier, or learning something new, but then found yourself paralyzed by something invisible, as if a force was holding you back? You might tell yourself it's simply laziness, but Jung would suggest it's much deeper than that. This lazy part of us isn't just a character flaw, it is the shadow in action. The shadow is made up of all the rejected and hidden parts of ourselves that we don't want to face. It consists of our fears, insecurities, painful memories, and the parts of us that we have learned to deny. The lazy archetype is one of the many masks that the shadow wears to keep us from stepping into something unknown, something uncomfortable. And here's the kicker. The bigger your ambition, the stronger your shadow becomes. Jung believed that the more you push yourself towards greater goals, the more your shadow grows to match that ambition. Why? Because the shadow sees your ambition as a threat. Every time you attempt to rise, to make a change, to reach for something beyond your current limits, the shadow pushes back, using its subtle powers to keep you stuck. For instance, imagine you set a big goal. Maybe you want to lose weight, launch a business, or change careers. In the beginning, everything feels fine. You have motivation, a plan, a sense of purpose. But then, as the days go by, you notice yourself feeling tired, distracted, unsure of what to do next. And before you know it, the motivation fades and you're back to square one. Jung would explain this by saying that your shadow is defending its territory. It's trying to keep you comfortable, trying to protect you from the potential pain of failure, the embarrassment of trying and not succeeding, or the fear of being judged. Your laziness is not an enemy. It's your own unconscious trying to preserve a sense of safety, even if it means you stay stuck. Every time you avoid taking action, your shadow grows stronger. Every time you make an excuse not to begin, it reinforces the pattern. The paradox is that while your ambition is pulling you forward, the shadow is constantly pulling you back. Take a moment to reflect on this. When you felt lazy or unable to take action, what part of you was resisting? Was it really a lack of willpower, or was it your shadow, whispering to you, convincing you that staying where you are is safer? Jung's profound insight is that we cannot simply out-hustle or push through our unconscious resistance. Motivation alone won't cut it. Without understanding and confronting the forces that hold us back, without acknowledging our shadow, we will never truly move forward. And here's the most painful truth. As long as we avoid facing our shadow, it will continue to sabotage our best efforts, turning every act of motivation into a temporary fix that inevitably falls apart. But here's the hope. You can change this. The key is not to fight against your shadow, but to make it conscious, to bring it into the light. Once you acknowledge your unconscious fears and desires, once you realize that laziness is just a mask for deeper fears, you can begin to dismantle its power over you. This chapter is about understanding that your laziness isn't a defect. It's an archetype, a defense mechanism that has been built to protect you from facing something difficult. But once you understand this, once you begin to question why you resist change, you can begin to take steps forward, no matter how small they might seem. Have you ever found yourself caught in a pattern of self-sabotage, repeating the same mistakes over and over again, even when you know better? Maybe it's the fear that holds you back, or an unshakable sense of inadequacy that you can't quite put your finger on. But what if I told you that the source of all these struggles isn't just in your behavior? It's buried deep within your unconscious mind. Carl Jung's greatest contribution to psychology was his understanding of the shadow, that hidden dark side of ourselves that we often ignore, deny, or try to repress. The shadow is not an evil force, but a part of us that holds our deepest fears, insecurities, painful memories, and parts of our psyche that we'd rather not confront. And while we may try to avoid it, the shadow is always with us, lurking beneath the surface, influencing our thoughts, decisions, and actions. When it comes to ambition and laziness, the shadow plays a critical role. Every time you set a big goal, every time you dream of achieving something greater, your shadow senses this as a threat. Why? Because every new goal forces you to confront something within yourself that you've been avoiding. Your fears of failure, your fear of judgment, and often your fear of success. The shadow, in many ways, represents the parts of ourselves that we're unwilling to face. Parts of us that we might have been taught to suppress or that we may have repressed due to past trauma. When we don't acknowledge these aspects, they manifest as resistance, procrastination, self-doubt, and the feeling of being stuck. Take a moment to think about a time when you truly wanted to make a change in your life. Perhaps you wanted to start a business, get healthy, or learn a new skill. You set the intention, maybe even told others about it, and at first there was excitement. But then, as time went on, distractions appeared. You found yourself procrastinating, convincing yourself that you needed more rest or more time to learn. You might have even rationalized that you weren't ready, or that it wasn't the right moment. This is the shadow at work. Jung taught us that until you bring the unconscious into consciousness, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The moments when you say things like, "I always mess things up," or "I'm just not meant for more," it's not simply a statement of fact. It's the shadow speaking. These thoughts and patterns are not a reflection of your true self, but rather the internal script that your unconscious mind is writing for you. So what is it that you're really afraid of? Is it truly the fear of failing? Or could it be the fear of success and everything that comes with it? The responsibility, the attention, the new expectations? Is it the fear of standing out, of being judged, or of losing the comfort of the familiar? The shadow isn't trying to ruin your life. It's trying to protect you from pain, disappointment, and embarrassment. The problem is that the shadow doesn't know the difference between real danger and perceived risk. It can't see the bigger picture. Every time you shrink back, every time you avoid stepping into your power, your shadow grows stronger. Think about it. How often have you been afraid to take a leap because you thought the risk was too great, even when the real risk was simply the fear of what others might think, or the fear of stepping into the unknown? The key is recognizing that the shadow is not your enemy. It's a part of you that has been shaped by past experiences, by childhood wounds, by societal pressures, by old beliefs about what is safe and what isn't. But once you begin to confront it, once you stop running from it, it loses its power over you. Ask yourself this: what would happen if you stopped avoiding your shadow? What if you began to acknowledge it, instead of letting it dictate your actions? What if you stopped being afraid of the discomfort it brings and began to embrace it? Jung believed that the path to real growth and transformation begins with the radical acceptance of our shadows. Rather than fighting against these parts of ourselves, we must face them, talk to them, and understand what they are trying to protect us from. It's only by bringing the unconscious into the light that we can begin to transform it and free ourselves from its grip. Every time you choose to face a fear or take an uncomfortable step forward, you challenge the shadow. And with each step, its power over you weakens. This isn't an overnight process, it's a gradual unfolding, a slow journey of self-awareness and acceptance. But with each honest action, you free yourself from the patterns of resistance that have kept you stuck for so long. Have you ever been filled with an intense desire to achieve something, perhaps even something huge, but found yourself continuously stuck in a cycle of trying and failing? You set ambitious goals, you plan meticulously, you dive in with energy and hope, but at some point that initial spark fades and you're left wondering, why am I not getting anywhere? You might even be able to identify what's going wrong. Maybe you're distracted, unfocused, or too tired to push forward. Or maybe, just maybe, the issue isn't with your ability to take action or your level of ambition. Maybe what's missing is purpose. Carl Jung believed that ambition without purpose is a recipe for frustration. He often said that we cannot simply will ourselves into success or force ourselves to take action based on superficial desires or societal expectations. True ambition for Jung needs to be rooted in something deeper, a sense of meaning, a connection to your true self, and an understanding of who you are and what you truly want. Without purpose, ambition becomes a hollow pursuit. You can be working tirelessly toward goals, checking off tasks, and yet still feel empty. You're doing all the right things, but you're still not moving forward in the way you want to. This is why, for so many people, success doesn't feel fulfilling. The moment they reach their goal, they realize that it wasn't the goal that was missing. It was the deeper why behind it. Jung's idea of the self, the true, whole self, was centered around the idea of integration. In order to live a fulfilled and purposeful life, you must reconcile the conscious and unconscious aspects of who you are. Without doing this, you can end up chasing goals that were never yours to begin with. goals shaped by others' expectations or by the desire for validation. This external ambition doesn't lead to fulfillment. It leads to burnout and frustration. So why does this happen? Why do we chase after things that, when achieved, don't bring us the satisfaction we expected? It happens because our shadow, that part of us which houses our fears, insecurities, and unresolved issues, has a way of influencing our ambitions. The shadow might push us toward goals that look good on the surface, but are ultimately disconnected from our deeper desires. Perhaps we're striving to build a business because that's what society says is successful. Or maybe we're pushing ourselves to achieve a body ideal because it's what others deem attractive. These are not necessarily bad goals, but if they are not aligned with your true purpose, they will not satisfy the soul. It's as if you are running a race but don't even know where the finish line is. And without that deeper connection to your own sense of meaning, each victory will only feel temporary, leaving you asking, is this really all there is? True ambition that moves us forward in a meaningful way, requires deep self-awareness. It's not about chasing the next shiny object or constantly seeking external validation. It's about looking inward and asking yourself, what is my soul truly calling for? What do I need to fulfill myself? And here's the uncomfortable truth. You can't fake purpose. You can't fabricate it by following someone else's blueprint for success. The pursuit of meaning requires looking at your life honestly, confronting your fears, and being willing to ask difficult questions about who you really are and what you truly want from life. Jung believed that the integration of the self, accepting and understanding all the different parts of who you are, was the only way to break free from superficial ambitions and create a truly meaningful life. The goal isn't simply to achieve more, but to become more whole, to live in alignment with your authentic self, and to allow your ambitions to flow from this deeper, purposeful place. So if you're feeling frustrated by your lack of progress, if you've been hustling hard without feeling the satisfaction of real success, take a step back. Ask yourself, what is the deeper meaning behind my ambitions? What would it take for you to create a life that truly resonates with your soul? What is the goal that only you can pursue? The one that isn't based on someone else's idea of success, but on your own. The answer lies within you, but it can only be found by looking honestly at the parts of yourself that you've ignored, the parts that are afraid of failure, afraid of standing out, and sometimes even afraid of success. And once you start asking these questions, once you start getting clear about what you truly want, you'll find that your ambition begins to shift. It's no longer about chasing something external. It's about creating something real, something authentic. And with that, the energy to take action becomes easier. The steps may seem small, but they will lead you to a life that feels deeply satisfying because it is built on the foundation of purpose. Now that we've explored the deep forces holding you back, the shadow, the false ambition, the unconscious resistance, it's time to talk about how to break free. How do you escape the cycle of ambition without action? How do you liberate yourself from the grip of procrastination and laziness? Carl Jung's work shows us that change is not about bulldozing through our fears or forcing ourselves into action. Real transformation begins when we stop fighting ourselves, when we accept the hidden parts of us that are trying to protect us from the unknown. The first step in liberating yourself from this inertia is understanding the true nature of your resistance. You see, procrastination, laziness, and avoidance are not simply about being weak or lacking willpower. These are symptoms of the unconscious forces that are at play beneath the surface. Every time you decide to push something off, every time you feel the need to take a break or distract yourself with something else, there's a deeper part of you saying, "This feels too risky." This is where the shadow comes in. Your shadow doesn't want you to change, not because it doesn't want you to succeed, but because change is uncomfortable. Your shadow has kept you safe for so long, kept you from feeling the pain of failure, rejection, or disappointment. But staying in this comfort zone, however safe, means staying stuck in a cycle of inertia. How do you change this? How do you break out of the prison of your own making? The answer, according to Jung, is self-awareness. But not just any awareness, radical self-awareness. You have to be willing to turn inward and face the truth of your own fears, doubts, and resistance. This means confronting the parts of yourself that you've been avoiding. The child who's terrified of failure, the ego that doesn't want to be judged, the part of you that believes success might bring pain instead of joy. Here's the practice that Jung would recommend. Start small. Radical transformation doesn't require huge leaps, because those leaps are often too overwhelming for the shadow to handle. Instead, focus on taking the smallest step possible every day. Perhaps it's sending one email towards that business idea, writing a single paragraph for your book, or taking a 5-minute walk. These might seem insignificant, but in the eyes of your shadow, they are powerful acts of rebellion. With each small action, you are telling your unconscious mind, I am not afraid of change. I am not afraid of discomfort. I can handle the risks. But the key is to be honest about what's really going on. Every time you take action, pay attention to how your shadow reacts. Does it try to bargain with you? Does it come up with excuses or distractions? Does it make you feel overwhelmed or anxious? This is normal. It's the shadow resisting the change. The more you notice it, the less power it has over you. In fact, Jung suggested conversing with your shadow, engaging in an internal dialogue. When you feel resistance, ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? What does this part of me want to protect me from? Often these fears are based on past wounds, times when you were rejected, ridiculed, or made to feel unworthy. The shadow keeps those memories alive, convincing you that you're not safe taking any risks. Here's where the real power lies: self-acceptance. Rather than fighting your shadow, you must accept it for what it is, a part of you trying to protect you, even if it's doing so in unhealthy ways. Jung believed that when we stop fighting our fears and resistance, when we start to accept them as part of our journey, we begin to loosen the grip they have on our lives. Every time you take action, even if it's a small step, the shadow's grip weakens a little more, and soon, the resistance will no longer control you. You'll find yourself moving forward not because you forced yourself, but because you chose to honestly face what was holding you back. But don't expect perfection. Change is messy. There will be setbacks. There will be days when the shadow feels too strong. The key is to keep showing up. Even if you fail, even if you stumble, acknowledge it, forgive yourself, and keep moving forward. Jung taught us that the path to true freedom, freedom from procrastination, laziness, and inner conflict, comes when we stop seeing ourselves as broken or incapable, and instead see ourselves as whole, with all our strengths and weaknesses. When we integrate our shadow, when we make the unconscious conscious, we unlock a powerful force within us that propels us toward our goals with authenticity and purpose. So, your challenge is this: start small, but start now. Each day, commit to one small action that brings you closer to your goal. Track your progress honestly. Be aware of the shadow's resistance and don't fight it. Understand it. Talk to it, listen to it, and then take that small step forward, no matter how uncomfortable it feels. If you do this consistently, you'll begin to notice something amazing. The lazy days will become rarer. Your motivation won't come from external hype or motivational speeches. It will come from within, from the power of self-awareness and the quiet confidence that you are no longer afraid to face the truth.